Welcome to LilliHouse, where we ask you to join us in our living room for family movie night. You may hear a dog bark, a cat meow, or a baby cry, but that's because we want this podcast to feel like an authentic evening in our home. So, put on your comfiest pajamas, get cozy under a warm blanket, and let's talk about some movies. My name is Gabe. I'm here with my family. You can introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name's Sam. You know me at this point. You know what I like. That's talking about food and movies. Sorry.
Well, and our spicy opening.
Spicy openings is just going to be our new podcast theme.
Oh, I don't actually like the sound of that anymore. Never mind.
Spicy openings.
Well, speaking of spicy, my name is Missy and I'm Gabe's wife. I am Samuel's.
Very spicy indeed.
I am Samuel's sister-in-law, but there's no spice there.
Mm.
The spice is...
Well, there is spice there because we both like spicy food.
That's
a good point.
In fact, it's probably even more spice.
Yeah.
Than us.
Than us.
No ginger spice.
Do we want to restart?
No, this is great. This is an authentic evening in our home.
That's a good point.
As you just said.
That's a good point. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the first episode of The Prestige. We definitely did. So much so that we decided to come back for the continuation of our Christopher Nolan mini-series. We don't have an actual title for it, so that's just kind of it. Maybe we'll come up with one at some point. But today we're going to be moving forward in the timeline of the career of Nolan a little bit to talk about Missy's pick for a movie to talk about on the podcast, which is Interstellar from 2014. One of, before I really break the news, one of my wife's favorite movies, period. So that'll be an interesting spice to add into this conversation.
Oh.
But before we do that, Sam wanted to shout out a very special someone on his side with some words about this movie.
Yeah, so my boy, my good friend, Mark, wrote this review.
Shout out to Mark.
On his Letterboxd, and I loved it so much. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's pretty extensive, but it's well written and very enjoyable read. But yeah, so I'm just going to read the last two paragraphs.
Okay.
While some people have issues with the tesseract scene and the betrayal scene on the last planet, I just say, shut the fuck up. Both make sense to the story and is well executed with rational on both aspects. At the end of the day, I love Nolan. This is another reason why. So I just like the expletive there.
You know what, Mark? Amen. That's what I say.
Yeah. He's saying, you disagree with me? You ain't my friend now. And
I
that's
will
what this pod's going to be about.
I will be Mark's friend because I agree with Mark.
Well, you know what? I think that's a pretty good stance. There's a lot of this movie that we'll get into that defies a lot of expectations going into it. I think this is the kind of movie that you're not quite sure what it's really going to end up being until you've seen it. I think
That's true.
and so I'm excited to dive into this a little bit more since we all watched this pretty fresh. Before we get deep into it, though, I want to go over some quick trigger warnings for this movie. There's a lot of space, so if you don't like the dark, cold vacuums of space, I would not recommend this movie. Child loss is mentioned, so that's a tough one as well. There's some suffocation briefly, and some heavy, intense existentialism. So if you get triggered by any of those things, this movie may or may not be for you. Did I miss any triggers in there? I feel like this is a long movie, so I feel like there could be something I'm missing.
If you don't like corn.
Oh.
I was in my head, I was like, I'm going to bring up corn. And then I was like, no, that's dumb. And then Sam did it anyway.
Well,
So that means that the inner voice in your head saying that's dumb is just me. It's just me.
Honestly, valid.
that was never in question, I would say. All right, well, that's perfect then. We'll cap it off with corn. And now we'll move in, before we get even deeper from there, get into my super sneaky secret starting question, which is asking you guys, what is the order of these three movies on Letterboxd by popularity? We have The Dark Knight, Inception, and Interstellar. arguably three of the most like popular 20th century
Yeah.
movies. Period. You know,
I
all
know,
made by Nolan. Missy, you know it?
I know the answer.
Oh, you do know the answer.
I do.
What is the answer?
But I want Sam to have a shot.
You want Sam to answer first?
Do you want me to answer?
Well, you
I
rang
mean,
the proverbial buzzer by
I did.
saying it.
Beep.
Yeah, you already buzzed,
Buzzer.
so just buzz.
That's gonna sound weird.
Okay,
on
I'm
the recording.
buzzing. If you hear a thud, it's because I
She quote unquote
smacked,
rang the buzzer.
I smacked what the mic is sitting on. The first movie
Mm-hmm.
is. Wait, now I'm doubting it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, now I'll say why I think this is the answer.
Okay.
I think the order is Inception,
Okay.
Interstellar,
Uh-huh.
Dark Knight.
Interesting.
That's what I would do.
I
That's what
think
you
it's
did, too.
that because after we watched Interstellar the other day, you were like, "Whoa, I can't believe this movie's rated higher than Dark Knight on Letterboxd." But now I'm not, and now I'm realizing I didn't know where Inception should be placed.
Mm.
I would
Interesting.
put Inception at the bottom,
Yeah,
but I feel
yeah.
like I usually don't do what the normal person does.
Well,
So.
well, I will say this is a sequence order based on popularity, not rating. I don't know if that makes a difference in your decision. Because highest rated versus popular
Yeah.
are different, very different, actually.
I don't know, Sam. What do you think?
I just think it's that order because
Inception first.
Yeah, just because. Oh, you are saying it's popularity, so I will change my answer and
Okay.
say that Interstellar, Inception, then Dark Knight. Dark Knight has to be the most popular. It just has to.
Oh,
be,
so
in my
Dark
opinion.
Knight and
Is the
then
most popular,
Inception, then Interstellar.
Inception, yeah, then Interstellar.
Okay. All right. Well, you're both wrong.
Great.
The answer is
Yay.
Interstellar first,
Wow.
Dark Knight second, Inception
Okay.
third.
So I just needed to switch Inception.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You were underrating The Dark Knight, which is on IMDb and Letterboxd one of the highest rated movies ever. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And also
crazy.
one, crazy also that we're not even going to talk about in this series, and sort of what we were talking about in the first episode, which is, sometime eventually we will come back to Christopher Nolan if we keep doing
Yeah.
this podcast. We will have a round 2 of Nolan, and that will absolutely have probably 2 of the Batman movies,
Can I just-
Inception, Memento,
Can I do Interstellar again?
the re-Interstellar. Maybe. Well, we'll see. We'll see how thorough we get with this particular conversation. You never know. This could go very haywire, and then then we'd have to. So
Like, that's another trigger warning
what?
that a couple of us will probably fight during this podcast. There might be hands thrown. That's a trigger warning.
That's a trigger warning for this podcast, not a trigger warning for the movie.
Movie.
All right, so let's get into the overall thoughts, feelings, reactions. Miss, I'm going to start with you because I think you'll have the strongest opinion out of all of us here.
Well, strong doesn't always have to be positive, or it could
True.
be you could strongly feel that this isn't the greatest movie of all time.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
sure.
I don't think this is the greatest movie of all time, but I really, really not just enjoy this movie, but I value this movie. You're right. I probably will have the strongest opinion.
I just
I-
need to get her to talk about it.
I tell this to anyone when I'm talking about Interstellar or when I'm watching another movie. Like, Interstellar didn't set a bar necessarily in quality for me, but Interstellar set a new movie watching experience bar for me. Interstellar is the first movie that when I saw it, I literally couldn't breathe at points. I felt like I was going to have a panic attack because of what the scene was doing to me. And that's the first time that's ever happened to me while watching a movie. I would compare it to like this feeling you get when this is stupid, but when a bride finds her wedding dress and she just physically reacts to it.
Interesting.
That's how I felt when I watched Interstellar. I had a physical reaction to it. I did not stop thinking about that movie for a very long time. And every time I watch that movie, I have that physical reaction. So it's not like it was like a one and done and it died down and the more I watched it. I physically react to that film, whether or not it's on a giant IMAX screen or the little tiny baby screen that you and I watched it on our first date in my college dorm room. Like, it could be either one and I will still feel breath leave my body. So I really just find, without talking for 10 hours, I find this movie to be important personally, as well as just what I think is a really important movie for cinema and history as well.
Did you have a relationship with Nolan movies before that too? Or was this sort of like your gateway?
I didn't connect directors to movies until I met you.
Okay.
I never ever took a second to think about the fact that someone was directing a film until after you and I directed. I knew people were directing films,
Sure.
but that's not anything I thought of until you got me to think of
But
that.
did you see any other Nolans without realizing it was his?
Yeah, I saw Dark Knight.
Okay.
I saw Inception.
Oh, okay.
I saw The Prestige. I saw a bunch of his movies without like connecting.
Without realizing. it was him,
Or thinking of, the themes of his movies or anything like that.
Interesting.
What about you, Sam? What are your thoughts?
I think Interstellar is a great film. I don't know if it reaches amazing as a whole, but in terms of sequences in this film, like you said, the breath leaving your body, like honestly, there's so many breathtaking sequences, and it's just, I don't know, this movie simultaneously, out of all of his films, the emotion that he instills in the character of Coop, played by Matthew McConaughey, we'll discuss, but like the emotion and then putting that with the spectacle and then infusing in that spectacle could be dread, anxiety, regret, these finding this bigger purpose for humanity. It's like there's crazy huge ideas in this film, and he backs it up with emotion that worked for me 100%. The emotion in this film is the thing that I always take away from it. Obviously, there's a certain key scene and certain other scenes as well that always get me. There's at least 3 or 4 times in this film where I am bawling my eyes out because I am just taken aback by these amazing actors that he gets and this aesthetic and that he creates in this. I don't know. It's just So I have issues with it in the third act, but we'll discuss that. But yeah, overall, I think it's a really strong Nolan movie. I think it's also another one of his best. I'd probably put it in top 3 Nolan movies, maybe top 4. We'll see.
Yeah, when we get to the end with Oppenheimer, I think we'll do sort of an assessment of our opinions on all of his movies. But in the meantime, while we're digging in, one by one, I think we'll kind of take it as we go. For me, I think the highs in this movie are so unbelievably high, and the lows don't compromise the feelings that the highs give you.
Yes.
I think that there are definitely some detracting things in the movie for sure, but I agree. I think that there are just some moments in this movie that feel like absolutely unbelievable transfixing in a way of how the hell did they go about even conceiving of this kind of thing.
Yep.
And then going through the execution of it. It's at such a high level, all across the board, everyone, executing on all cylinders. And I think that that's what a lot of the legacy of this movie is the way that it is able to have these just absolutely breathtaking moments and visuals with the with the real heart at the root of it too. And doing the research, Nolan was very inspired by old Spielberg and obviously 2001: A Space Odyssey, but movies that had that kind of moral center to it, that sort of family drama at the core of it, surrounded by these surreal circumstances. And I think he really gets at the root of that in a really impressive way in this movie that I think definitely sets it apart from a lot of his other ones, and also sets it apart from movies of this type also. That sort of space exploration into God knows where, doing God knows what. And also the authenticity of it, which we will get into shortly with the background of the movie. But before we get to that, I want to stay on our thoughts about the movie and talk about our favorite scenes. Sort of like big takeaways that we have. For me, I think just to get the ball rolling, I think it's pretty clear for me to say that the moment where Matthew McConaughey comes back from the water world and is catching up on all the backlogs of videos that Casey Affleck and eventually Jessica Chastain had left for him, and I would suffice to say that Matthew McConaughey's acting in that scene is pretty legendary at this point. I don't think there's any doubt about it, and it just hits at such a core part of your body when you see every single facial reaction that this guy has watching these videos. He's unbelievable. It definitely won't be the last time we talk about his performance, but we can start with that.
I think that whole sequence when they get onto that water planet or universe or whatever is absolutely insane.
It's like top tier movie making kind of stuff.
I mean, we'll discuss Hans Zimmer's score, but Hans Zimmer, what he does in the scene with the ticks, if you will. There's the ticks, and it represents every hour, I think, or every day on Earth. That was it. So every tick from the score when they're on that planet is every day that's being spent on Earth, and it's and then it builds and it builds and it builds, and the waves come, and it's like, what Zimmer does with that, with the way he goes soft, but then he also can still do what he does best, which is just accompany the spectacle with this grand arrangements. So seeing that, and then them getting back on the ship as well is just amazing, and like seeing Rom, like that guy that was just in the ship for 23 years, and you could tell he's just like different now. He's been there for 23 years, and he's like it. They sell that so well through his David Gyasi's performance as well.
Did that one work for you? That performance?
I liked it. I thought he was a little goofy. He's like that quirky, I know a lot about science guy. He's obviously just a random, not a random, but he's a side character.
He sure is.
They probably should have switched him out with
David Oyelowo.
Yeah, David Oyelowo.
Yeah.
He would have been better, probably.
Yeah, he's great.
He's only in it for 2 seconds.
He shows up as the principal.
In the beginning.
For that one scene. But he's a very accomplished actor. I think having him in that role would have been better. Probably.
Yeah, that's fair. But my favorite scene, unless you want to go, Missy?
Well, I guess piggybacking off of what Sam said, I'd say when I think of this movie, I think of the water planet scene.
Yeah.
That is the scene when I saw this in the movie theater for the first time. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that scene. Like I said before, that had never happened to me before. And so that scene, I literally could not breathe. Now, I personally have a water thing. I am not a fan of the ocean. Yeah. I am not a fan of endless water. So going into it,
it's a nightmare
as
planet.
As soon as that door opens of the ship and all you see is water, I was like, this is not going to be good. And then I, like Anne Hathaway as Dr. Brand, I was like, oh, good, there's mountains in the back. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness there's land on this planet. Maybe it is good. And then not Bradley Cooper. We were talking about Matthew McConaughey.
We're talking about Maestro before this, so
Yeah.
if we drop a few Coopers, that's why. It's also his name in the movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey is like, those aren't mountains. And I immediately felt a shiver go down my spine. And I mean, we'll probably talk about Hans Zimmer 30 times during this podcast. I also, just personally, have such a crush on Hans Zimmer. That is who I want to be when I grow up. And he just truly knows what to do and how to get you. And he knows how to make music. Such a character and such an ambiance. And it's so effective in this scene. And the silence that he uses and the escalation that he uses and everything is just so good. And the performances, it's just that entire scene is just meant to, you know, as they are chasing the clock and relativity and they're getting more tense as time is going, we, the viewer, are physically, emotionally, mentally feeling more and more tense as that scene goes because we feel what these actors are going through. That's how amazing the performances, the music, the scene, everything is. And I would say another scene that did that for me, not the air leaving my body sense of reaction, but it's funny, every time I watch the scene where he leaves Murph, where Matthew McConaughey leaves Murph and decides to go on the space mission, and you know, he's talking to her in her room and he's like, please don't let me leave like this, and they're fighting. Every time I watch that scene, I have that same feeling of tensity as everything escalates. And every time I watch that scene, the first thing I say is, oh God, I hate this scene. And it's because I love that scene so much that I hate it. It's because it's so effective. I hate watching it. It's like I'm about to watch a car accident happen. Like, I want to look away, but I'm so entranced by what's going on. I can't look away. And it's so effective and so emotional. And, you know, I would be curious to know what you think of that scene, Gabe, because you have a thing with child actors. Gabe rarely thinks that child actors do a good job in films. So I would be interested to know what you thought of it. But I do think Matthew McConaughey steals every scene he's in this movie. But I do think that I'm not sure her name. I know you have the cast list up, but whoever plays young Murph is unbelievable in that scene.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Foy, yeah. I think it depends on the scene for her. I think in that particular scene, I get the impression that was a very important one for all the actors and the director to nail. So you can feel like how hard they're trying to sell that. And I think it works out that way. I think some of the other scenes, it kind of like the cracks in the performance start to show a little bit for me. But that being said, though, I give flack to child actors a lot, but it's also really freaking hard to get a performance out of a child actor.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who the actor is, no matter what the age. You know, if it's a younger actor, it's just going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. So I give him props to get any scene over the end like that is an accomplishment. I think that moment of McConaughey holding Murph by the bed, like kind of like holding her up a little bit in his arms, I think is one of the best images in the movie.
Yeah.
Which is saying something, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's one of the ones that sticks in my head the most. Oddly enough, I don't know why, but no, I think that's a very effective scene, and I think the two of them play it really well, and then bringing it all the way back at the end in the tesseract sequence, I think kind of adds on to it even more so at the end. Would that are you like tied between that scene and the water scene, or is it the water scene then second is him going away?
They do different things to me. So it's like emotionally the scene of him leaving is like what I feel when I leave that movie experience. That's like what I still feel.
Yeah.
But like physically and like movie making magic, it's the water scene. Those two scenes I think are the most effective scenes in the film. And I do think one affects the other. Like, I think the core of this movie is, you know, the connection and love between a father and daughter. I think that's what this movie is about. That's, you know, obviously this movie is massive and has so many massive themes, but that's the core of this movie. And the reason that the water planet scene is so anxiety inducing is because we know what it's doing to his relationship with his daughter. We know what he's losing. And that's why it's so difficult to get through that scene, because we feel the loss he's feeling every single second that goes by while they're on that planet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, time, what a new theme for Nolan in this movie. But I think the aspect of time is like time represents, you know, more than, it represents different things in this film in terms of Earth is running out of time. You know, crops are dying. The world is going to end soon for Earth. We need to find some way to figure this out. You know, that's the impetus of the beginning of the film, and what sets up, you know, with the scene that also is another favorite scene of mine, which is where Cooper says goodbye to Murph. Is, you know, that's concluding that first act, I feel like, because, you know, he's driving away, and one of the shots of the movie, also the one where, you know, he's holding her in the bed, but for me, is McConaughey's face. You know, he's driving away in the truck, and he checks to see if Murph is hiding.
Oh gosh,
under the
gets
blanket
me every time.
And then he sees she's not there, and it's kind of like, it's like secretly he wishes she was there, you know. And then you see in his eyes, like half of his eyes, one eye is like kind of half closed. It's like twitching a little bit because he's just so like emotional, but he's trying to hold back the tears. And that like face acting, that raw emotion acting, you know, I think is almost just as impressive as the scene of him watching the old logs, you know, that take place over 23 years. It's insane. And also, once again, Hans Zimmer's theme, when he's driving away, this like profound melancholic kind of boom of the score is just so beautiful. And then they start counting down with the launch at the same time as the truck's driving away, and I love like the cross kind of cutting of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, that whole sequence is just so like, it's so good. But yeah, and I think it goes back to just what I was saying about time, is that it represents this thing of running out of time, but also running out of time to spend with his daughter. And I think that's
I just got chills.
You know, it's using time and the loss of time to induce dread and that fear, and then ultimately sadness. And I think it's a very interesting usage of that concept, and also just Nolan's filmmaking and the way he's able to immerse you in that. Yeah.
Well put. Should we get our negatives over with now? Should we get that out of the way?
Should we? Should we run it back at the end? I don't know.
Well, because there's going to be a lot of positive talk after this, including like just a conversation about like how this movie got going and how it got made, and some little
we could discuss negatives then.
Trivia tidbits. So, you know, let's just put it out there now so we can move on from it. And so my main issue with this movie is some of the writing of it. And we briefly covered this in the Prestige episode, but I definitely think it's a more prevalent issue with this movie, where the emotional aspects hit so unbelievably hard, but when it comes time to do the obligatory scientific conversation, the movie kind of loses it a little bit. Some of the kind of like, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. but doesn't hold the same weight in dialogue as the rest of the more natural sequences of the movie is, where it gets a little more like, you can tell Kip Thorne, the theoretical physicist that was one of the producers on this movie, sort of just like encyclopedia barfing the dialogue a little bit, which is equally tough because most of the scenes revolve around, you know, the astronauts talking to each other about these things. In my opinion, the assumption should be that these guys know what they're dealing with here. They don't have to stand around and explain it to each other, you know?
I think I have issues with the script as well, but in that aspect of these scenes in between these big sequences of these, you know, this crew talking to each other, yes, it is very like I'm reading off an encyclopedia. It does feel like that. But I think it works just because I feel like they established that Coop's character is not really... He doesn't really know what's going on. He's like a pilot. Like, he's not like...
Mm-hmm.
He's also an engineer. He was like...
That's
like,
not a
he
scientist.
worked for NASA.
But I don't know if he I don't know if he knows about black holes and like wormholes and like... I don't know if he knows all these things. And I think that's a way of doing it. Like, he's supposed to be the everyman hero that looks to the stars and he wants more for Earth, and he wants to explore. He's an explorer. That's what he loves. That's like the main trait with his character. Besides obviously loving his daughter and being a family man. I feel like they don't really establish that he like has all this knowledge. I think they throw him in there because Professor Brand, played by Michael Caine, you know, knows Coop, and Coop finds the space, and they kind of like, oh, let's do this, you know?
I think that's where my issue is. They set up that he has a history with NASA and Professor Brand, but he doesn't have any knowledge or understanding about this stuff when the mission's happening.
But remember, he does say to Professor Brand, like, I literally don't know any of this. And he's like, you were the best we had. He's like, I barely left the atmosphere. Like, remember, like, he wasn't a space explorer. He was a pilot of those marine ship things that were still on planet Earth. He never left Earth. So, you know, that's the number one thing. He didn't ever go into outer space. Number two, you know, he didn't even know that another entire galaxy was accessible, and that black hole was in the other galaxy. And at the end of the day, Coop is just a farmer now. He used to pilot for NASA, yeah, but that was years ago. He never left Earth. And how was he supposed to know anything about black holes when it's not even in our galaxy? So I think you have, and I appreciate this, but you have too high of expectations for Cooper. But at the end of the day, Cooper's just a farmer who, like, doesn't even want to be doing this. He wants to be with his kids, but he also wants to save his kids. He's not thinking about the science. He's thinking about his kids. And the other thing that I would kind of argue you on is... sorry. The other thing I would kind of argue you on is you say that the science talk doesn't kind of hold as much weight to the emotional moments, but I don't think science is the important part of this film.
Exactly. So why are there so many scenes where they're just like throwing all this gibberish at you?
Well, I believe science is an important part of this film.
It's important, but it's not.
They make it a very important part of this.
But
film.
it's not. But it's not supposed to hold as much weight. Is what I'm getting at.
I know it's not supposed to, but I think that the amount of effort that went into making things as scientifically accurate as possible and having specific sections of the movie dedicated to basically showing off how much research was put into this and how much consultation was given to it. I think it puts itself into a bigger microscope for that reason. Mm-hmm. You know? And I think I agree. I think that the important part of this movie is the emotional center of it, the core of it, the family issues at play, things like that. You know, there's a reason why Nolan was inspired by Spielberg movies just as much as he was inspired by 2001. You know, it's because of that kind of dynamic. I just think that that the priorities get a little muddied, and when they do, the movie goes into a different place than I think its strengths lie in.
Yeah, well, I believe, like you said before, there's a marriage of two science fiction films here. We have like Close Encounters, like you said, type of maybe like a Star Wars-y vibe, and then you have like a 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then you have Nolan in the middle
Himself.
So I think Nolan, also Jonathan Nolan, who wrote the script for this film, Christopher Nolan's brother. They've collaborated numerous times.
They did with The Prestige we just talked about.
Yeah, with The Prestige, and I think also possibly the Batman movies. Don't quote me on that, or at least some of them. And I agree with what you're saying. I think Nolan gets in his own way, also with the obsession of being, accurate and having this astrophysicist Kip Thorne and showcasing that. And I think that is in a crucial, like I said, my main issue is third act of this film. I'll get right into it with the Tesseract scene.
Yeah.
Tesseract scene, sorry Mark, there's some issues with the Tesseract scene.
Mark's not going to be your friend.
I mean, that scene is just so bizarre to me. I don't even know where to begin with it.
I think of it like when it starts, it's brilliant. It's so good.
I really like
with
the way
the
into
sand,
it. Yeah.
the way it comes in, and like with the dust, because it's kind of like mirroring the dust of the house and the dust that comes from the ceiling. That Murph thinks is a ghost, and it's amazing. And then you get this crazy visual, and he's going through, and then he sees, and you realize he can see through the room, and he's like begging, he's just stay. He's telling himself, don't leave, and that part's amazing. And then right after that, like he starts talking to Tars, the one of the androids of this film.
Yeah, thank goodness he ended up somewhere within vicinity of the conversation.
Voiced by Bill Irwin, and and then they start like talking, and he's like, "We're in a fifth dimensional space, and I'm looking at my memory." And I was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Now he's explaining it to me, and now I'm taken out of the film." The movie very easily and effortlessly Nolan immerses me, and then this was an instance where I thought he took me back, and thankfully most of the movie isn't like this, so I still think this is a great film, but in that one instance where I really wished he didn't explain things to me, because I was able to separate it. I was like, oh, this amazing sequence, then they have explanations in the ship. Amazing sequence, now they're explaining things to each other again in the ship. This was like amazing sequence, and I'm getting something explained to me at the same time. And then that did not jive in my brain, and I was not able to experience it the way I would have liked.
I see what you're saying. No, and I do agree with a lot of what you're saying. But, and this isn't even like a, obviously I really love this movie, but this is where I think like the three of us on this podcast is interesting. Because just backstory, Gabe and his whole family are cinephiles. Especially his, himself, his brother, his mom. Like, they're very big on films, and they discuss films, and they really always dissected films, and that's such a cool thing that I'm just starting to learn how to do, being in this family for 7 years now. I'm starting to kind of start doing that too. But I think they are not the norm movie viewer in a lot of ways. Where I feel like I watch movies in kind of a normie way, I'll say, which is like I need a little bit of that explanation in order for me to get through the scene. And I find that with the Tesseract scene, I see what you're saying because I can now look at things through a Lilienthal lens. But I think as a normal movie viewer, people aren't going to be as bothered by that because you hear they chose us, they this, and then who's they, like the entire movie. At a certain point when you mention fifth dimensional beings of gravity or whatever they are. At a certain point, you just need that closure, a lot of viewers. And I think this provided us the closure, but also gave us, like you were saying, Sam, at the same time, a really cool sequence.
Yeah.
So I think it I see what you're saying, and I think I would even agree with you, but I think for the normal viewer, that explanation is actually really valuable because, you know, you're watching a movie that's massive and crazy and diverse and has so many layers to it. At a certain point, you just need the explanation to kind of ground you again before the next big plot change, which is the discovery that they are us, but a evolved version of us. So having that explanation allows me to proceed through the movie without being like, what the heck just happened? And the end of that movie is supposed to be kind of concluding. I don't think, you know, obviously there's this whole entire feeling of like, where is our existence as a species going? And that's massive. Where I feel like the entire movie is massive. At that point, I need the movie to start ending. I need some conclusions. I need some finalizing.
Payoff.
Yeah, I need a little payoff at that point. So that's kind of how I saw the explanation there. But I do feel like he's a little, this is weird, but for such an emotional performance by Matthew McConaughey in this film, he's a little calm in the Tesseract. That's my issue with that scene. You are literally in a black hole. You have been sucked into a black hole. You are what you probably think is alone for infinity. And you are staring at your child that you can't access. And yes, I know he's like screaming and crying for Murph and yelling at himself to not leave. But then as soon as he starts talking to Tars, like you said, for me it wasn't the explanation that was the problem. It was his performance more so. And this might have been a direction thing where I feel like he's really calm and analytical and he's really able to think and process and decide what to do. And for me, that kind of took me out of the movie for a bit. Because for the entire movie, it's like, you know, you're following what he's doing, you're feeling his emotions with him. But then while I'm like, oh my God, this dude is in a black hole, he's like, yeah, I'm in a black hole. And I'm like, what? Like, it's just a little bit off-putting for me, his performance at the end there.
I think that scene, execution-wise, isn't quite on the same level as some of the other moments in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think it falters a little bit. I think it still ends well after that. I like the way that the rest of it caps off, but I do think that that particular scene, one that is so pivotal, I think they probably had a very hard time writing, frankly, and it shows, you know, just how hard that scene probably was to put together.
Definitely not an easy thing to tackle.
Yeah, so it makes sense that we have our issues with it, I would say. So that went a lot smoother than I thought. You know, not as much blood, not as much death, but there's still plenty more left in the podcast to go. So let's get into some of the background. How did Interstellar come together? Might not be as straightforward as you might think. So, believe it or not, the conception of this movie was started by a blind date.
Interesting.
Oh.
Carl Sagan, the astronomer, set up the film producer Linda Obst and the theoretical physicist Kip Thorne to go on a blind date together. And the two of them come up with a concept, a very simple question of what if the most exotic events in the universe suddenly became accessible to humans? Not long after that, Steven Spielberg himself becomes interested in directing this idea, this movie. And Jonathan Nolan then gets hired to write the screenplay. This is in March of 2007 or so. So Nolan's kind of out and about doing his Batman thing at this point. But in 2009, due to certain contract complications with studios, Spielberg drops out. And Jonathan recommends his brother, Christopher Nolan. And Nolan joins in 2012. So there's a solid like 3 years in there where the project just kind of dies. And during that time, Jonathan, it takes like 4 years for him to finish his screenplay for this movie. It takes him a long time, does a lot of research, goes to a whole bunch of different universities to study, and he really puts in a lot of work. Christopher Nolan now, meets up with Kip Thorne and writes his own script. And eventually him and his brother merge their two together. So this is sort of a mix of both brothers' visions for the story. Nolan ends up getting a deal. I just thought this was interesting. Nolan ends up getting a deal for this movie for $20 million against 20% of the total gross of the movie. We'll come back to that. Now we get to casting. The fun stuff. Nolan sees Matthew McConaughey in Mud from 2012 and decides he wants him to be in the lead. Anne Hathaway just worked with Nolan previously as Catwoman in Rises, and is invited over to Nolan's house to read the script, and it's curtains from there. So from there, after Nolan's old cinematographer drops out of the movie, goes on to direct his own thing, then retires, in comes Hoyt van Hoytema, who is a very decently accomplished cinematographer at that point. Shot a very, very great horror movie called Let the Right One In. He also did The Fighter and Her before this movie. And after this, he goes on to shoot all of Christopher Nolan's movies. So we'll be coming back to him for Tenet and Oppenheimer as well. Yeah. During the shooting of the movie, Nolan tried to keep CGI to a minimum, which I think is a great theme of his movies. And so he shot on location in Alberta, Canada, Iceland, and Los Angeles for this movie.
And black holes.
Of course. There were miniatures used for the ships, and the robots were puppeteered by none other than Bill Irwin himself, who would afterwards voice TARS and then became digitally removed in post-production, which I think is great. Hans Zimmer coming in.
That's my boy.
Returning to work with Nolan after doing the Batman movies and Inception together. Fun fact about the process of getting Zimmer on. Nolan only gave Hans Zimmer a one-page story of a father leaving his child for his job, and there were no script or plot details provided, which I think is absolutely absurd.
Yeah. I've thrown that trivia at you before, pre this research.
Correct.
That's one of my... Sorry.
It's just an unbelievable fact.
That is
it's just like an unbelievable fact.
Favorite, trivia points about any movie that's ever been created.
I just can't... that's just the craziest thing to imagine.
But that's the genius behind
Hans so good.
Zimmer.
I know.
That script...
He created that.
It's absolutely crazy.
I know. There's nobody like him.
We have to get back to that point because I have a fun fact.
Okay. Well, do you want to skip it now?
Sure. I bought a masterclass, like that brand masterclass that does that, puts you in front of a bunch of experts in their field, and they pre-record a bunch of videos of them talking. And in one of Hans' masterclass videos, because I used to dream of being a film composer. I was a music major in college, so that was one of my dreams. So I bought this masterclass. I always, looked up to Hans Zimmer. And one of the examples is he discusses his score to Interstellar. And he tells that story. And he just starts with one note. And he plays the note over again. And then he adds just one more note. And for some reason, that to him felt... And he just keeps adding and adding and adding. And it's like... the layers of a relationship, the layers of love, the like the way he was talking about it was so cool.
He's so good. He's so
and
crazy.
Just the way he talks about that script and about the film, he talks about it like the relationship between a father and daughter. Like, he doesn't really get into the space part of it, and his use of organ.
The organ.
Oh man, it cuts right through you in this movie, doesn't it? It cuts right
through you, and it's just unbelievable how he can translate that into this film about outer space. but that's where it is. It's not about outer space, and it's just such a genius thing, and I appreciate that trivia fact so much.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
the organ is when I first heard it, I was like, forgot this was in this movie, like this like piece,
Oh
you know.
man, yeah.
And it reminded me of another time he used organ, which was in Dead Man, Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yeah.
Dead Man's Chest,
Incredible.
which is another completely different usage of the instrument, just as effective in that film.
Oh yeah,
Well, that's great.
memorable.
So good
Yeah,
too.
but you know, there you can find similarities in Zimmer's work, but like he's able to make most of his scores, he's able to make it unforgettable. You know, and
A character.
A character, yeah.
Yeah, this movie definitely feels that way for sure, and I think Nolan really invited that, especially when there's so much space exploration and sort of like gadgetry work being done on the ships and things like that. It leaves so much room for the score to breathe, and I think Hans really eats that up. I just can't imagine like Nolan's reaction when he first heard that organ come in. He must have been like creaming. I can't even imagine.
Or just any of the music.
Yeah, honestly, any of them. So, just to cap off a little bit of the origin of the movie, Kip Thorne, the theoretical physicist from the beginning, continued to be a producer on this movie. So did Linda Obst, but Kip was a lot more on top of sort of the real intricacies of the scientific plot work here, and he had two sort of main guidelines for the story, and the first one was that nothing would violate established physical laws, and the second was any wild speculations would come from science and not screenwriting, which I think is smart. And I think makes sense in some of the issues that I have with the movie, which is like, because it can't be tied to screenwriting, any of the speculations, the science has to be explained, like you were saying, Miss. Like it has to be for it to get anything across in some of these concepts. But I appreciate the fact that Thorne was so, insistent on that sort of accuracy. And I'm not surprised that Nolan agreed to it because he seems like the kind of guy that's really interested in that kind of stuff.
Accurate.
Yeah, and really kind of champions that kind of honesty, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's the origin. That's how the movie got made. Now we're gonna play a new game called the Box Office Ballpark game.
Ooh.
I'm gonna tell you the budget of the film, and I want you guys to tell me how much it made globally.
Like total?
Total. Give me a ballpark.
Okay.
The budget of the movie was $165 million. If you want a hint, I can give you the opening weekend.
No.
Okay.
I don't need hints.
I might need hints. But
First of all,
Sam, you go.
only 165. That's actually
$165 million.
that's just amazing considering this is a weird side, not the quick side tangent, but the amount of money Disney spent on the recent Indiana Jones film, Dial of Destiny.
Oh boy. Well, that's different. It's a different podcast. That's for our James Mangold series.
But it's amazing how Nolan is able to not make the budget so inflated and can use everything to the best of his disposal and everything. Yeah,
it's $5 million higher than Inception, but less than the Batman movies.
Okay. I'm gonna say globally. I'm gonna say 750
million.
Yes.
Okay. Miss, what's your ballpark?
I need opening weekend.
Okay, the opening weekend was $47.5 million.
Domestically?
Domestically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, so it didn't even make its money back opening weekend?
no movie's gonna make their money back opening week, especially one like this. you need some kind of like small A24 movie to like make its money back, or the Blumhouse ones where it's like $5.
Oh, see, I thought that was normal.
Yeah, all you have to do is like buy a soda, and Blumhouse gets money back for their movie.
Okay, you said 47.
47.5 million opening, 165 million budget.
All right, I'll say lower than Sam.
Okay.
I'll say like closer to 500
Well,
million.
I would do lower now too. 47.5.
Do you want to change the answer?
No, I'm sticking with 750.
I'll
750?
stick with 500.
Okay. Sam, you're actually really close.
Let's go.
$729 million.
I don't need hints.
I do.
Engrave that in a tattoo on my arm right now.
We'll put
I
on your
don't need
tombstone
hints.
under.
On my tombstone.
Didn't need hints.
On my obituary.
Beloved father.
Beloved father.
Lovers.
If you hadn't told me the budget, I would have been like, "Oh, it made $100 million." Like I don't know anything.
So that's an interesting thing I want to bring up with this game, actually. So the Dark Knight movie, The Dark Knight, on a $185 million budget, made over $1 billion.
Oh my gosh.
Like just over $1 billion. Dark Knight Rises also made just over $1 billion on a $250 million budget.
Wow.
And then Inception, on a $160 million budget, so $5 million less than this movie, made over $839 million. So by this point, when Interstellar is being made, you know, WB's got no problem throwing $165 million at this guy, because they know people are going to see his movie.
It also says a lot about the director. Like these directors,
Exactly.
like Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, like these huge, massive directors, they obviously can live a very happy and comfortable life after one film. These guys are doing it. These gals now, like they're all doing it.
Shout out to Gerwig, hell yeah.
Yeah, they're all doing it because they really just love this. And it shows in their films. They're not doing this to make a buck. They've got a couple bucks. Like they're doing this because
absolutely.
this is art.
Yeah.
They're creating art.
Yeah, and we'll get into it with Oppenheimer too, but even up till now, Nolan still makes money on his films.
Oh, yeah,
A lot of
they,
money.
They always profit. It's crazy. It's really insane.
It's people.
Except for like Tenet, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's. Tenet
It doesn't really count.
We'll get to Tenet next time, but yeah, it's honestly just because his movies are events, you know, and it's the thing that you just can't. Depending on what you think of him as a director, you are not going to find that Nolan experience anywhere else in any other film. It's just not. You're just not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. So now we're gonna turn the corner to Trivia Corner. Sorry, I did dance there. I forgot it's an audio only podcast for now. So just some quick trivia to throw at you guys for funsies. Even more fun fact, there's way too much trivia on this movie. I was telling Sammy before we started recording, but this is around the time where, in Nolan's career, where every single movie he makes gets over like 120 trivia on IMDb. It's just like mountains of text about fun facts, some not so fun facts, but there's just tons of shit. So this is some of the big takeaways for me. The cornfield was real, and the corn was sold after production wrapped.
Oh wow!
And it made a profit.
That's hilarious.
They were able to get more money out of what they made.
Another profit.
Fucking, he just makes money, man. It's nuts.
Wow.
So they grew a cornfield.
Yeah, Nolan wanted to make it real.
So they didn't go to a pre-existing cornfield.
Correct.
They literally grew
That's
a cornfield.
Crazy.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts. Also crazy is the large dust clouds on Earth were real
What?
and were produced by giant fans blowing cellulose-based synthetic dust into the air.
But it had to have been blown up, right?
Well, it was giant fans blowing stuff in the
No,
air.
but like in real life, if that large dust cloud was real, wouldn't like just normal people panic?
I mean...
Well, they picked extremely rural place to film that, and then they
Probably.
probably just hired everyone in that, like the scene with the Yankees game. Is that where they use that?
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and then sort of like the general sequences when it's inside the storm, basically.
Like on the street with all the cars on the sides.
Oh yeah, true. There's that. Too.
Yeah, all that stuff. That it's just in the air.
But
yeah.
even the giant visual of it coming towards the baseball field.
That's what my half-assed internet research says.
Wow. That's crazy.
I could be wrong. You never know.
Wow.
Anne Hathaway suffered from symptoms of hypothermia while filming in Iceland because her suit was open while filming in the ice-cold water. It's kind of crazy.
During the water planet scene.
Oh.
Yeah, so that sequence was filming on location in Iceland and also additional like CGI visualization, which I think is
I'm
is
ready
the
for you to
perfect
tell
use
me the
for
waves
CGI.
were real.
No. About the visual effects team, though, they pre-made some of the visuals for the interior scenes on the ship so that the actors can see what their characters would actually be reacting to in space.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they propped it up outside the windows of the ship, so when the actors looked outside the windows, they could see what the characters would be seeing.
Like their reactions to like the beauty of Earth
Yeah,
as they're leaving.
exactly.
Wow, cool.
They pre-made that stuff.
That's
The black hole.
It's a great idea. Mm-hmm.
Those are some of my favorite shots too.
Yeah.
Another credit to Hoyt van Hoytema is that the shot of looking out at Earth, that kind of perspective,
Yeah.
and just that the ships too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have anything about.
I do.
We'll
get there.
Yeah.
The shape of the space station is made to look like a clock face.
Wow.
Yeah. Tick tock.
Trivia.
Tick tock. The interviews at the beginning and the end of the movies, of like all the old people, is from a real documentary that famous documentarian Ken Burns made about the Dust Bowl.
Oh.
And Christopher Nolan asked and received permission from the director and the producer of the documentary themselves.
But they got the same woman to play Old Murph?
Ellen Burstyn, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. She was a fake.
Yeah, so that was the one where they were like, all right, can we have permission to actually use this so we can add in Ellen Burstyn?
Oh, so she didn't talk about the Dust Bowl.
Yeah, she wasn't in that. They filmed
Oh,
that.
That part
okay.
was,
Got
that part
it.
was different. But everybody else was from that documentary. The black hole was made to be so scientifically accurate that it took around 100 hours to render every frame.
Wow.
Meaning every second equaled nearly 100 days of rendering.
But don't.
Wait, days or hours?
Days.
But we as a
That's crazy.
civilization know what a black hole looks like?
There's a good amount of pictures and stuff.
But isn't it like
Don't underestimate the theoretical physiology of Kip Thorne.
I thought that like all we knew of black holes is like as far as our technology can go, there is no light in this one little speck of area. I thought that's all we had.
Well, that might be more of the wild speculation stuff that Thorne was talking about before. But...
Well, yeah, apparently there was equations they used for that scene you're talking about, where that's why it was so long to render, because they were using like real equations coded.
Oh right, like they were doing actual research on this stuff in real time, making the movie. I think even Kip Thorne might have like received like an award or something for the discoveries that they made while preparing.
Yeah,
for the movie.
like the movie's like.
Wow.
Which is the cool thing about it being so accurate, is that it has like all this real science, and you're watching it and you're like, this is like stuff that like people are working on. It's not just
screenwriting.
like a cool idea, like a cool image.
Yeah. And that to me is part of what makes this movie so hard to watch sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, this is too real. Oh, there you go.
There are images of black
There are
holes.
some images. All right, some pictures have been taken, folks.
That might have came out after the movie.
Well, there was a lot of, there was some other trivia that I didn't want to get into because there's just way too much of it.
Yeah.
Where they talk about sort of like the discoveries that were sort of made by proxy of working on this movie. But to be more movie-centric, Christopher Nolan, pretty secretive guy, especially after the Batman movies. So when this movie was being made, they shot under a fake title, which was called Flora's Letter, which, to what Missy was saying before, is the name of Christopher Nolan's daughter.
Oh wow!
Which is a cute little like father-daughter connection.
Nice.
Very attuned to the movie itself.
Can you imagine being Christopher Nolan's daughter? Sorry, keep going.
Even more about the secrecy, Jessica Chastain read the script but was not allowed to keep it afterwards. And even Matthew McConaughey himself could not tell his wife the plot of the movie until post-production was over.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And the last thing that I had in here was harkening back to The Prestige, where we talked a lot about the sort of foreshadowing dialogue that happens in the movie. Shows up here in spades as well, with Murph saying at the very beginning, "I thought you were the ghost," to Cooper waking up. And Cooper saying, "Once you're a parent, you're the ghost of your children's future."
Yes.
I did catch that
good
when
line.
that was the first time that I caught that
Yeah.
when Cooper says that later in the movie.
Yeah, there's a few moments at the beginning of the movie that have that sort of tinge of foreshadowing to it. That does make it more rewarding on rewatch, but anybody who's listened to the Prestige episode knows my opinions on multiple rewatches. That's why I made a podcast
That's a
for
message
rewatching
to the true
movies.
LilliHouse fans.
Listen to this episode. You gotta listen to the last
The
episode.
residents of LilliHouse. That's our fans' name.
The residents.
Working title.
Residents.
Can't it just be the family?
No, that's
The
disgusting.
fam.
All right, so let's move on to everyone's favorite section. Let's talk about favorite performance.
Oh.
I feel like this movie, even more than The Prestige, I think, is packed with some real heavy hitters.
Yeah.
There was obviously plenty of talent in The Prestige too, but I feel like there's a pretty deep bench of talent in this movie. That's cool because you can tell that like at this point people were excited to work with Nolan. They were like, I got to see what this guy's all about, and I think it definitely shows, especially with Matthew McConaughey. Let's talk about the easy one.
McConaughey.
He's just out of control in this movie.
Do we all agree that Matthew McConaughey is the best performance?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's,
yeah.
He's the
Like I feel like
For
that.
For
actor.
sure.
Yeah, like there's
For
a deep
sure.
bench of talent in this film, but if we're talking about our favorite performance, I feel like unlike The Prestige, where you can kind of go back and forth between the two main actors, this movie has an obvious best performance.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And just to put into perspective too, I think McConaughey at this time was on such a freaking heater.
The reconnaissance.
Yeah, he had his big moment with Dallas Buyers Club
Yep.
in 2013. But even before that, he had Mud,
He had
which
Mud.
sort of, put him in the eyes of Nolan.
When was Magic Mike?
Magic Mike was also 2012.
Wow.
2012, big year for McConaughey. Becomes an Academy Award winner with Dallas Buyers Club. And suddenly there's like a whole new era to him. He shows up in Wolf of Wall Street for a minute in a very memorable sequence that we'll talk about one day, I'm sure, when we get to Scorsese.
True Detective as well.
True Detective was the same year as this
As
movie.
Interstellar.
Yeah, so he's just on an absolute tear. And it's hard to argue if you want to say that this is his best performance.
I don't know. I mean, I think out of what I've seen from McConaughey, I think it's his best. I think it captures obviously that raw emotion that made me bawl my eyes out multiple times. It's him, and he's the reason too. I mean, it's the filmmaking as well, but it's him, But also, he's just the leading man, Like, he's cracking jokes with Anne Hathaway. him and Tars have a nice rapport going. You know, he's charming because he's McConaughey. Like, he does McConaughey does best, but then he goes even deeper because this movie can just pull that out of him. And I mean, Dallas Buyers Club can make an argument that maybe his best, but I don't know. And personally, like, I'm always going to go back to this performance anyway. So
If Matthew McConaughey called me slick, I like.
You turn into a
You
puddle
can just kill
on
me.
the spot.
Honestly, my life is done. There's nothing else needed.
Yeah, I want to give credit to Anne Hathaway also, of course, because I think she has a pretty tough role in this movie.
yeah.
It's a little bit better than the female character writing issue that we had with the Prestige. I still don't think it's quite there yet with this one, but it definitely feels like the character brand is on the right track of female character
I
writing.
agree. And that's, like, if we're just to pop back to our negatives really quick, my least favorite character in this film is Dr. Brand. I still think Anne Hathaway does an amazing job with what she's given. I think we said the same thing about The Prestige. But I think that, I don't know, there's something lackluster about Dr. Brand. There's something just kind of dull about her that I don't think is supposed to be dull. I know she's supposed to be kind of like witty and dry, but not dull. There's a lot of layers to Dr. Brand if you think about her character and, you know, the aspect of love, the fact that she is literally the one whose job it is to literally survive our species. She's in charge of the frozen eggs and the embryos and all of those things, and that's crazy. Her character has crazy responsibility. Her character's in love. Her character suffers loss. Her character goes through a lot, but I feel that there's still something missing about her character.
Would you guys say that this movie puts, dare I say, too much focus on just the Cooper character? Do you find that, like, he kind of takes a lot of the air out of the other characters in this movie?
I mean, I believe Nolan just does that anyway.
Not even in a way of, like, taking away from, like, the quality of the movie itself. I'm just thinking more in terms of character specific.
I mean, I can only answer your question in regards to the 4 people on the ship. There's 4 people that go on this mission. I know nothing about 2 of them. And they both die.
Doyle and
I forgot his
Romilly.
name. There was Romilly. I remember Romilly.
I remember because Wes Bentley's face always scares me.
Yeah, no,
he's a
scary.
He's a good actor. I just, for some reason, like, he's got a very striking.
Beady.
Well, he was
appearance.
he was a villain in the original Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, he was. That's right.
So I was scared of him as a child by him. So it's carried on.
That's probably where it came from. Yeah,
But
and
I know nothing about those 2 characters.
right.
Yeah.
So not only is it sort of like put in the back burner, but I also don't think the performances are that great either. And maybe that's part of the issue too. Is like these 2 actors don't really stand out.
Well, is it because of their performances, or were they not given enough material to even create a character, really?
I kind of think it's both.
Okay.
I kind of think it's
Okay.
both. Like these actors, I think. I don't get the impression that they were game to, like, try and make something out of this. You know, they were just like, "Here's my role. I trust Nolan. Let's go." When I don't think that needed to be like that, especially since, like you said, Miss, the Brand character is, you know, a little touch and go, and it's basically just McConaughey's character. When it should be like 4 pretty distinct personalities, they kind of mesh into each other a little bit.
I do think we are given enough for Murph and Michael Caine.
Sure.
But Michael Caine, am I only thinking that because he plays the same character in every Nolan movie? So I feel like I don't need any more explanation because he's just playing the same character.
And he's really good in that position, and I think he and Nolan by this point have a relationship where they really trust each other, and I think Caine kind of takes his ball and runs with it
Yeah.
in that way. And maybe that is the issue. Maybe it's a lack of like comfortability with the actor or slash director. Maybe maybe it's just that like Kane doesn't give a shit because he's an old guy, so he'll just do stuff, and Nolan has enough respect for him that he's like, cook King.
I mean, I believe Michael Caine
is our dog, by the way, in case you heard that on the mic.
Michael Caine, I think he is playing the same character, but not at certain points. I mean, what his character ends up being, which is he's lying. He's a liar. He basically.
That's true. That's a first.
And I think they actually use Michael Caine well in here because he's supposed to create a net of safety of being like, this is Michael Caine. He knows what's going on. He's been helpful. And
our dog has come to join the pod.
Hi, puppy.
Oh, good kisses, man.
You want to come up? You want to come up on the couch?
He's trying to jump up. Oh. Okay.
Okay, Cloud's here.
All right, Cloud's joined us. Cloud, what do you think of Michael Caine? Oh, okay.
All right, cool.
He settled down. He's settled in. He just wanted to cuddle.
Anyway,
yeah,
sorry, Sam.
Go ahead, Sam.
The net of safety, like, I feel like, it's like, oh, like, we're in good hands with him. He's just an old guy and he's figuring it out.
Especially after the Batman movies where he played Alfred and he became sort of like the confidant, kind of like trusted mentor guy.
Yeah, he's back at Wayne Manor and Bruce is coming back and, he's able to talk through things. Where it's like, this guy's like, he lied to humanity because he wanted to keep hope alive, but he also was basically clueless the entire movie. And it's an interesting subversion, which I think, leads into this entire Matt Damon sequence, which we can discuss after we discuss this. But
oh gosh,
the Matt Damon sequence, I think, is
wow.
Talking about.
For some reason, that totally left my brain.
Yeah,
the Damon stuff. Yeah, he's interesting in this movie. I don't really.
We can talk about Matt Damon now.
He wasn't originally casted for that role.
Really?
It was originally going to be a different guy. I forget the name of the actor. Not nearly as big of an actor, but did work with Nolan in previous movies. I feel silly for not having the name. That was just our dog settling more in. Now he's very cozy. So Matt Damon was not the first choice, but the guy who isn't as well known, who has worked with Nolan previously, had to leave the project, and somehow, some way, Damon ended up being chosen instead. And it's such a weird, I guess, cameo. I guess
He feels too famous for that role.
he does, and which makes sense because he wasn't the original choice for it.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be someone who was not as famous.
Which is interesting for me to say because, the dog is now.
Now the dog is.
And
Whoa,
I'm
whoa!
Talking the mic over.
I'm like, oh my god, the timeline is so fucked up. All right, hold on. Let me like try and All right, so it's around like, Sam, can you put a note for like an hour and what is that, 18? We're gonna go back on that. Hopefully it doesn't like destroy the. I'm gonna like edit that part so it's way quieter because you guys should have seen it. It was like all blue. So
He's talking about like
it's
the
like
audio.
all sound on the sound the timeline. Holy shit, that was funny.
But I was just gonna say, I feel like it's interesting for me to say that Matt Damon is too famous for this role because the role is supposed to be this like, they build it up before he comes onto the screen like he's this like massive hero, and we couldn't have been here without what's his name, Dr. Man.
Dr. Man.
And he's like the leader who got these 12 people for the Lazarus mission to be brave, and he's the unsung hero, and like, so you would think it would be some like kind of famous heroic main man energy, but for some reason that doesn't fit for me. But I will say this is an issue I have with Matt Damon in general.
Well, Damon's a complicated movie star because I feel like he has the Bourne movies where
he's with the action.
Yeah, where he is sort of like that kind of heroic guy, but a lot of his movies aren't all really like that.
Yeah.
You know, he has, similar to McConaughey, he's kind of got like an everyman quality. His characters are a lot more layered than just like goody two shoes do gooder, which I think makes sense then for this role. But I think that's the real issue. Is even still, he still is too famous for this.
Well, and I think he needs a whole movie.
And he did get his whole movie.
Well, and that's
the next year with the Martian.
That's what I was just about to
Which
say.
is an odd, yeah.
I like The Martian.
Yeah,
I
same.
like
I
Matt
really
Damon
like
in
that
The Martian.
movie.
I feel like he plays a kind of similar character without the mischievousness of, you know, Dr. Man and the obvious, you know, he becomes a traitor.
Well,
but
in The Martian, he's more of the Cooper character.
yeah, for sure. But like it's, you know, just the same like lonely man in space type of thing. But an actor like Matt Damon can't just do a couple scenes. He needs a whole movie because
sure.
he's such a big personality and face that like it feels a little weird for him to not be apparent for longer.
Yeah, to get dropped in and out like that is weird for him, for sure.
I think that's the thing about his character, is I think like the message and what they're doing with that scene, and their kind of the pathetic, you know, nature. I think Matt Damon pulls off really well the character, but like this character comes in and then like 5 minutes later he's like not a good guy. It's just there. It's like the movie like threw this whole bit in that I don't think it hurt the movie. But I'm not as invested in Matt Damon's character as I probably would have wanted to be, like you said, because he needs more scenes. He needs more because he's Matt Damon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with that character though, he definitely hams it up a little bit.
Well, he does, but like I just really think like the scene where like, what does he say to him? Like, you're a coward or something? He's like yes, yes, yes. Like I don't know. I kind of like that line delivery from Damon. Like he's just so like he like wallows in his like. He's just a shit. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like when he's walking away from Coop, after he breaks his helmet, and he's like, "I'm with you. You know, I thought I could watch you go through this, but I can't." It's like there's something to me that's like a little like obviously he's a jerk, but like I think Matt Damon is trying to mean it, and I think his character is trying to mean it. Like I see what he's doing. I think Matt Damon is doing a great job, but to me, it doesn't. It's not executed well.
No, it's too much to put into that short a time.
I think that's it. Like
it's too much.
It's too much of a performance and too much of a written performance too. Like I think Matt Damon did a good job with what he was given, but I do think that like you're right. Like I don't know how long total the Matt Damon sequence was, but it felt very short and it felt very large.
Yeah, it's probably like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Out of a 2 hour and 40-minute movie or something.
Yeah. And
it's not much.
I looked up who the actor was that was originally supposed to play this.
Oh, thank you. Yes, can you show
this
the class?
character? And it's the late actor of various Indian cinema and Life of Pi, Irfan Khan.
Oh, he passed away?
Yeah, he passed away in 2020. I didn't even realize.
Oh wow!
I feel like that would have been so much better.
Oh yes, he was.
I think
he was pretty
been
big in
better.
Inception. I think was his big.
He
one.
was. I mean, I don't know if he wasn't. Was he in Inception?
I think so. I know he was in some of the Batman movies. No, he's not in Inception. What am I thinking of? Maybe I'm thinking of one of the Batmans then.
I'm checking.
But we're just putting the whole podcast on like a screeching halt.
He was in Jurassic World.
Okay, well I don't give a shit. but Jurassic World.
He was in Darjeeling Limited.
That's a good movie. Not Nolan though.
He was in none of the Batman movies.
What the hell? He was definitely in a Nolan though.
I don't know if he was.
Maybe
No?
we'll get there. But either way,
He died in 20.
No, he's not gonna
I
get
do
there.
think
He's dead.
think he was. No, I meant like with another one of the movies we're going over. But
Oh, sure.
no, I think he would have been a way better decision than Matt Damon.
Yes, I agree.
And I'm glad Matt Damon got The Martian because I feel like
He's so good in that movie.
Yeah, he's
Holy
amazing in that
shit.
movie, and that's like the potential that this movie could have had, but wasn't enough of a stage for him.
Yeah, when we do the Ridley Scott series, that's gonna be my choice. I think is The Martian.
It's probably The Martian's probably his last like really good movie.
That
Ridley Scott.
movie's so good. Now moving into the next game, which is one that we played last time, and I think is a real favorite. I have a question to propose going into it, which is, does this movie actually have any chameleons in it? This game is the chameleon versus actor game. If you're unfamiliar, it's where we compare actors that are chameleons, ones that kind of really disappear into their roles, versus movie star actors. You know, the kind of people that you go and you see on a marquee and you're like, I have to see that movie because this guy's in it and I know he's going to give me what he always gives me. You know, there's no real like hiding this person. And the only person in this entire movie that I could really see as like a chameleon, I would say, is John Lithgow. Like, I really don't think anybody else in this movie is a chameleon.
But where is John a chameleon?
Well, I don't think he always plays like the old grandpa fart, you know?
No, but I do feel like every time he's in a movie, I know it's him.
That is true. I guess you could make an argument for Lithgow.
I'm thinking of like his like early stuff though. Like, cause he's been in the biz since the 70s.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, thinking back to him in like Blowout as the bad guy in that. He's like a serial killer in Blowout.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's way
true.
different. In terms of endearment, way different. Going through the rest of his stuff here, Pelican Brief, Cliffhanger, where he also plays an antagonist, is definitely
He was
different.
in All That Jazz as well.
All That Jazz, one of his earlier roles.
That's a great one.
Lord Farquaad.
That's true.
He
the
really
biggest chameleon.
the smallest, actually. The shortest.
I would say this movie is full of movie stars. And I would say in this movie, John Lithgow is a movie star. Like, I think this movie, there is no chameleon acting.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Remember when he shows up for like 2 seconds and kills the
That
flower
was
moon?
that was just a very
What a legend.
John Lithgow performance.
That was just incredible stuff.
But I would say this is a movie full of movie stars.
Yeah, like I can't think, even like friggin' Chalamet, it's like popping up.
Yeah, young Timothy Chalamet.
Young Chalamet with the not curly hair.
Yeah.
Weird.
Jessica Chastain, I think, has
tried
to be a chameleon a couple times.
She tries to be.
And it never
Same
worked.
with Anne Hathaway. I think Anne Hathaway has done roles where she's really trying to get in there, and I think it's just always Anne Hathaway.
She's doomed.
You know what it is, though?
To always be Anne Hathaway.
You know what it is, though? I think there's a difference between being a chameleon and being a movie star who really likes working with interesting filmmakers and like a variety of filmmakers. You know, like Anne Hathaway, her breadth of experience is crazy. You know, being in the We Crashed miniseries, like very much like a movie star thing.
Princess Mia Thermopolis of Genovia.
Correct. Armageddon Time, where she kind of like escapes a little bit. The new movie Eileen, which looks weird. The Witches. You know, this is just stuff from recently too. You know, she's had a very Les Mis, that massive moment for her.
She's not trying to hide into her role. She's very much Anne Hathaway.
No, but I'm just speaking more in terms of like, even more so honestly for the listener, of like the movie star criteria isn't just like this person always plays the same type of character. It's just like they're always themselves, like recognizable.
Yeah, and that like they're kind of doomed to always be recognizable because of how unbelievably famous they are.
For better or for worse, yeah.
And it's like, you know, obviously, you know, we were talking about Christian Bale last week. Like, obviously Christian Bale is a famous actor, but I think he's done such a good job of disappearing into some of his roles that he's not always Christian Bale. Like, he's, you know, if Anne Hathaway and Christian Bale are walking down the street, I'm recognizing Anne Hathaway.
And Hathaway first, yeah.
So I think
sure.
that's kind of what I mean in that regard. But Matthew McConaughey is 100% movie star.
For sure. And I'll give a shout out to Ellen Burstyn,
Yeah.
who plays the old version of Murph. She played the mom in The Exorcist and has had a massive career ever since then, to varying degrees of quality. But she...
And in the recent Exorcist Believer,
Did you see that?
directed by David Gordon Green.
You watch that?
No, I saw David Gordon Green's work. I watched his Halloween.
No!
I watched. I watched his Halloween trilogy, and I thought, I'm good now.
Okay.
All right.
All right. You know what? I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, now it's time for everyone's other favorite game. Who would we cast for this movie today? Which is also a working title for this game. So we've all gone through and compiled the list of our 3 sort of like primary characters. Adult Murph, specifically adult. Coop and Dr. Brand. Those are the 3 characters we're going to use. Does anyone want to get started?
I can go. Or
Go
do you
for
wanna
it,
go?
Sam. You
All right,
want?
go, Sam.
All right.
Go ahead. You sound ready.
So I'll start with Murph, adult Murph. I thought Florence Pugh would be a good option.
I mean, can't go wrong with Florence. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I don't really know if I have to even say anything about her. She's kind of just proven herself as a.
She could literally do anything. I don't think it's
Literally.
possible for her to do something she can't.
She's really good. And now we know that she's worked with Nolan. She worked with Nolan in Oppenheimer. So
Fucking sick with Nolan. Hell yeah.
you know, I think that's self-explanatory. I think she could definitely pull off the emotion of being this daughter that, you know, is stubborn and angry with her father.
And
But-
she's a believable smart person too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you believe that
Capable
this person like is actually understanding what they're talking about. You know, which I think is good with Chastain in this role too, but I think Pugh could also do it.
For Brand, this is a weird choice that I'm gonna stick with for now. Natalia Dyer. She's
From
Like from
Stranger Things?
from Stranger Things. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Mike's
So a little younger.
sister.
A little younger.
I think she could pull off the older look, and I think I don't know why it shows. I think if you just give her short hair and
yeah.
you tell her your dad's Michael Caine, like you gotta do.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need.
That's all
That's the character.
But
that's probably what Anne Hathaway got too.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's a little more like say youthful, but yeah, I think she could be good.
Okay.
I mean, she's definitely got the talent for it. I could see
I
it.
Yeah.
honestly do. Yeah,
I could see it.
And then Coop,
And Coop.
my pick for Coop is
Just breaking down over here.
Andrew Garfield.
Oh, sure.
Oh, I thought about that.
Andrew Garfield never worked with Nolan before, so
What a cool mix that would be.
I think that would be a crazy, awesome mix. Andrew Garfield's just like a sick actor, like one of my
He can
favorites.
do the emotions.
Similar to Florence
too.
Pugh, I think is.
Yes.
Is there anything that this guy can't?
Yeah,
do.
extremely capable. You know,
Always game, also.
I think now he's a little older too. I think he could. He's not at. I don't think he's at McConaughey's age. I think he's
No.
younger than
He's definitely
45.
not 45. He's definitely not 45.
But I think you could still pull it off. Maybe make it like Murph's like his sister now. I don't know if you want to like really do it
Yeah.
now,
Or you could
just wait.
You
I
could just
think
make it
you
a
could
slightly
do it.
younger. Yeah.
Or
That
just
too.
age him a little bit. It's
Yeah, you
like
could.
he's-
It's really.
And because that's a great pick because he's done really wonderful crying scenes that are very effective.
Yes.
And when you hear him talk about his process, it is such like an emotional experience when he has roles. So I feel like he would be perfect for this.
He's
for
also
sure.
suffered loss recently. I think his mother died
He did,
a couple
did,
years
yeah,
ago,
yeah, she,
and
yeah.
he'd probably really dig into this role.
There's a great. I have to plug this because I listen to it a lot. The WTF podcast from Mark Maron,
Oh yes.
where he talks to celebrities and other famous people. His podcast with Andrew Garfield is legitimately incredible.
Yeah, you've talked
I have
about
to
that
check it
a
out.
lot.
Yeah, I've talked to Missy about it before, but it is really an amazing listen. He also had a loss recently of his girlfriend and his mom, so they bond about a lot of spirituality and also loss, and I think it's a really beautiful conversation. So I think that's a really great choice.
Cool.
I would say, Sam, as you're talking, I agree with Andrew Garfield. I would switch your Brand and your Murph. I would put Florence Pugh as Brand and Natalia Dyer, is that
As
her name?
Murph.
As Murph.
Oh, yeah, that works.
I thought about it.
That works.
But I feel like Pugh would work better as the daughter. Just because I don't know. I think that...
Is there like an attitude there thing that you're pulling?
Yeah, I
from,
think
or?
I could just see the attitude of Florence Pugh more, like the feistiness, but also like that kind of restricting emotion.
Because
that
Dyer
she's
can
done
definitely
before.
get sassy too.
She can.
Her character's pretty sassy. In
But
Stranger
I
Things.
like when Sam talks about it like that, I think of like Little Women. Florence
Oh,
Pugh's
yeah.
role in that.
Yeah.
Of course. No, I think it's a smart choice. I think either option is
Yeah, it could
is
go either
good.
way.
Yeah,
It's an interesting pick.
because with Florence Pugh's Brand, you get more of her, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
I'll go next, and I'm pretty proud of my combination here. You guys can let me know what you think. But for Brand, I chose Emily Blunt, which I feel like is a pretty decent comp of Anne Hathaway. Brings she could use her regular accent because Michael Caine's also British, so like it wouldn't be an issue
True.
there. Obviously, she has the talent for it. She feels in a lot of ways like a sort of matured Anne Hathaway in a sense, not nearly as like theater kiddie, which I think is good for this role. Who is a little more like removed. Definitely a better role than Oppenheimer's wife, but we'll get to that. For Murph, adult Murph, my pick is Haley Atwell. I think this kind of role is something that I've been waiting for her to get into, to sink her teeth into, and I think she could really bring a lot of that energy and like enthusiasm to that character in a way that I think would be pretty believable. And similar thing too with the rest of the movies, like just bringing in movie stars, and she definitely is one of those like magnetic personalities that I think would make a lot of sense. And for Coop, my pick is Jeffrey Wright, because I love Jeffrey Wright so much.
Such a
And I
good
think-
pick.
I think
wow.
he's an
That'd be so
unbelievably
fun.
I think he's an unbelievably versatile actor, and I would love to see him flex his muscles in this way.
Those are all good. I think the Haley Atwell one, I never even thought of her.
I had to Google her. I forgot who she was, but now I remember.
Yeah, Captain America's
Captain
gal.
America, the most recent
Mission
Impossible
Impossible.
Dead Reckoning
Yes.
Part 1.
Yeah, I think that's a great option. I think she's a little older now. I don't know if she...
Well, Chastain's supposed to be like 40 in the movie or
that's
something.
true. Yeah.
It's basically where Atwell's at now. They can play the same kind of age, Atwell and
Yeah.
Chastain. They both look younger, but they are actually older.
That's a good point.
So it's possible to put them in a whole bunch of different blocks.
They're also both so beautiful.
Yes, very, very
Yes.
magnetic looking people, for sure. The kind of people that, like, you put them on the screen, you're like, I can't look away from this person.
Yeah.
And I think for Murph, as a character, for her to kind of, like, command so much of the second half of the movie,
Yeah.
I think it needs a person like that. Where you're like, I can totally see a station worth of NASA workers listening to this person.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm getting that from. And like I said, Jeffrey Wright is amazing, and I would love to see him do something like this.
Jeffrey Wright, that's such a good pick.
That really
It's
is.
my dude. He's so good.
And like I see like both of your picks for Coop are really interesting for different reasons. Jeffrey
Yeah.
Wright, I feel like that fatherly comfort part of Coop, and Andrew Garfield I feel would nail the emotional part of Coop. Like they both fit different pieces of that character really, really well.
Yeah, and it would be cool to imagine both of their takes on that on that character for that reason. I would love to have like seen just one scene of the two of them playing that character
Like an
in
acting
their
class
different
or
ways.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be like a seminar kind of thing. Like see how these guys approach things differently. Yeah, that'd be fucking sweet.
Well, let me tell you my coupe.
Yeah.
I actually have two. And
Okay.
I can't...
Coops.
I have two coupes.
Two coops in the coop.
And it's because I can't decide between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But my two coupes would be either Adrian Brody or Cillian Murphy. And I feel like the reason that I picked them is like kind of what I said to Sam about Andrew Garfield. When I picture Coop, I picture the scene you spoke about earlier, which is him sitting and watching the videos that his family has sent him over 23 years that he missed. I picture the two of them sitting and watching that and what they would do with that scene. And I feel like they would eat that scene and leave no crumbs. I really do. And then for Murph, well, no, I'll go to my brand, which
What
no,
difference
okay,
does it make?
no, I'm gonna do brand first. No.
So why
This
did-
really is a typical
Why does
living
this
room
matter?
discussion because there's a reason. But
Okay.
for Murph, I thought Maya Hawke.
Sure.
Oh,
I like the idea
Oh, it's
of
brand.
Maya.
that's
What?
Murph.
No, that's Murph.
Oh.
Murph is
okay.
Maya Hawke.
Okay.
And I like that because I think, and I like what Jessica Chastain does with the character as well. But I do think that she has the spirit of someone that's a little older, Jessica Chastain. I almost wish that she had the spirit of someone a little younger. Like she's stuck. She's stuck in childhood because that's when her life pretty much ended. And I feel like Maya Hawke has played someone who is a little older. Like we saw that in like Asteroid City. And, she can play somebody that's an adult, but, they might have to age her a little bit to play the Murph that is her father's age. But I think what I also like about her as Murph is Jessica Chastain is amazing, and she does disheveled really well. And I think Maya Hawke would do the same. I don't want someone that's too beautiful and striking as Murph. I want someone that looks a little disheveled, has gone through a lot, is stuck in, this building, putting equations on boards for hours on hours. And I just feel like she would do that well. And then my pick for brand was, and this just might be me, I wanted an actress that I wasn't as familiar with. To me, Anne Hathaway was too famous for this character. I saw Anne Hathaway. I didn't see Dr. Brand. And this is, unfortunately, something that Anne Hathaway, like we were talking about with the Chameleon versus Movie Star game, she's doomed with this. But I wanted someone that I personally am not as familiar with, but looks like somebody who I want to listen to. Kind of what you were saying about Murph. But I feel this for Brand, and I picked Rebecca Ferguson because I wanted a face.
That's a good one.
I
That's a
wanted
good
like
one.
a face that I know when I see a movie and that I know is reliable when I'm watching a movie. But she's not necessarily someone who is like, I'm looking at her and I'm thinking of her as an actress in this role. I think she's someone who can disappear into her role a little bit more. And I think she's got kind of this like aged maturity that I think you also were saying about Dr. Brand would be good. So, yeah, I think I would say Rebecca Ferguson as Brand.
I think that's a great choice. I like Adrian Brody as Coop.
Yeah,
I like
Adrian Brody.
Yeah, I
more
like
as well.
Brody a lot more than I like
Cillian.
Killian, yeah.
Killian in it. I think Killian brings a different energy to it that I don't think is as like every man.
Yeah.
That's true.
But Adrian Brody absolutely
Definitely.
does. And obviously, with movies like The Pianist, you can tell that he's very attuned to having an emotional performance if he needs to.
Yeah.
And I can definitely get some of that warmth from him too, if he wanted to. I don't think he does those kind of roles very often, but I definitely think he's capable of it. And I think Ferguson's a great choice too. I'm still wrapping my head around the My Hawk one, just because of the age thing, and then also like the presence. I don't think it's quite the same, but
I could see it, but I think they would just have to really age her up somehow.
and I just don't think it's worth it at that point.
Yeah.
You know, because you got so many great actors older at that age, at the right age.
I definitely struggled with that one the most. But I think, honestly, our magic combo is split between the three of us.
Well, what do you think it is?
I think that probably Jeffrey Wright as Coop, Florence Pugh as Murph, and Rebecca Ferguson as Brand.
I do like that combo.
That's a magic combo.
I do like that. Well, I guess we all won the game.
Oh,
Wow.
Winner, chicken
Dinner.
sandwich,
Okay.
Parmesan.
parmesan, chicken parmesan,
We're breaking down a little bit.
vodka parmesan.
So, this movie, we've talked about a little bit, but this movie has a lot of like core emotional text to it. So I think there's a lot of life lessons to glean from this movie. For me, the most important one is if the ghosts in your bookshelf are telling you to stay, you should probably listen. You know, they probably know what they're talking about. That's my main lesson.
That's a good one.
Do you guys have any big takeaway lessons from Interstellar?
Yeah, there's a lot of life lessons in this one.
Riku.
First one being...
Sorry, our cat's scratching like a maniac.
Riku.
What are you doing, you goof?
First one being, you have a daughter. You know, just bring her with you to space.
Sure.
Bring her into the black hole.
Better together than
Then
apart.
yeah.
I never know if I'm supposed to answer this seriously or not. Because last
You
time,
don't have to.
Sam and I answered the Prestige one seriously, and you were like, wow, we took that way more seriously than I thought.
My intention was to make it a joking thing.
Okay.
But you don't have... if you have a real one, you could just do it.
I mean... but then I'll feel left out of the silly, you know?
But if you have a silly one, then you can do a silly one too. We're not confined to just one.
I don't have any silly. I'm not silly enough. But like...
You're so silly.
Thanks. I'm just... Sorry, our animals are being hectic.
They're getting rambunctious.
But I would say my serious lesson is that sometimes the big things that we think are the most important things are actually really small in the magnitude of everything. I know a lot of what I said doesn't make sense, but I think sometimes, especially we as parents, have a lot of tunnel vision when it comes to what matters in this world. And I think that's a lot of what Cooper does well, you know, seeing the bigger picture. But, you know, I think the big question in this movie is if Cooper knew that plan A, you know, Michael Caine's big lie, that he never thought that the humans would actually leave Earth. The plan was always that they would find a planet and repopulate, and that the people on Earth would not join. You know, if Cooper knew that, would he have left his kids? And if Cooper didn't leave his kids, would we as a species be donezo? So, you know, sometimes you have to think about the bigger picture, even as a parent. And I think that's the big life lesson that I seriously took from it. The big life lesson that I took from it that isn't as serious, but I guess it's serious depending on who you are, is that you can't survive on corn. And
you hear that?
You really can't
America?
survive on corn.
I like
there's
corn.
there's no protein in corn.
Yeah, but I like corn. What are you gonna do about that?
But you know, the other side of it is
going to space without you.
don't plant okra, plant corn, because it's all we got.
Words to live by for sure. I think that's there's pretty good lessons to take away from this movie for sure.
Yeah.
Going back to the concept of parentage, what age should our children be before they watch Interstellar? Now, arguably, this movie is even more confusing somehow than The Prestige is.
Yeah.
So, we said 13 minimum for The Prestige. I would say probably like 16 for this movie.
I was thinking
minimum.
16 minimum. To really...
What do you think, Sam?
To get the most... I think you can watch it younger.
No,
But to
you
get the
can.
most out of the movie watching experience and not be like totally confused when you leave, I would say 16.
This movie is so clearly made from like a parent perspective too.
That's true.
So I think it's rewarding to watch later in life, but I agree. You can watch it earlier. And
We all watched it for the first time when we weren't parents,
Right.
and we loved it.
Right.
Speak for yourself.
Samuel, you as a parent?
Are you trying to tell us something?
I had a
Are you gonna
child
reveal-
when I was 13.
Oh my.
No, I think, honestly, I'll go 13 again with this movie.
Really?
Because I think I was like 15 when I watched this, but the movie just looks amazing. And I think as a 13-year-old, you would watch it. Maybe you're not going to get all of it, but you're going to just see all these crazy visuals, and I think it's going to be a very, like, impactful experience for that kid. They might not really get what's going on, and like I said, when you get older, y'all are parents now, so maybe you had a different perspective when you watched this movie recently. But I also thought it was me watching it recently too. I felt more impacted than I did like 3-4 years ago whenever I watched it last.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, if let's say 4 years ago was the last time I watched it. I was 18. So even then, I mean, was I fully grasping everything? I don't know.
Well, it's kind of
It's the
cool. It's a good
tough part.
point that you make. That, like, I think that's a sign of a good film as well. If you can take and appreciate something every time you watch it, whether that be, within a few days or be over a span of 10 years, I think that's a sign of a really great film.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
I
agree.
agree. I completely agree. I think if it's something that can speak to you any time in your life for different reasons, I think is definitely a sign of a good movie.
Like, I'd be interested, Sam.
Now our cat's here.
Yeah, now the cat's joining. I'd be interested, Sam, for you to watch this again after you become a parent
Yeah.
one day, and to kind of see.
Definitely is going to hit harder than...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll hit different for sure. All right, so we're rounding out the end here. This will not cap off the episode like last time, but I do want to play the fake Oscar game. Now, this movie was nominated for score, Hans Zimmer's score, the sound mixing and the editing, the visual effects and production design, and it actually won for its visual effects. So, but nothing else. So, if you were to give one other Oscar to this movie, what would it be? Miss. And why is it just Hans Zimmer?
Yeah, I don't... Can you tell me what other movies were nominated for score that year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
our researcher has it.
So, for Best Original Score,
Mm-hmm.
we had The Theory of Everything by Johan Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Mr.
good.
Turner by Gary Yershon.
What? Mr. Turner?
Yeah, Mr. Turner. You've heard of this movie?
No.
It's a biographical movie starring, directed by Mike Lee. It stars Timothy Spall
Oh.
as this artist. I started it a while back, and I was extremely bored, and I stopped watching it.
I mean, I love Mike Lee, but I've never heard of this.
Yeah, then obviously Hans Zimmer's Interstellar. Then Desplat did Imitation Game, and he was also nominated for 2 movies. Not only did Alexander Desplat get nominated for Imitation Game, he got nominated and won for Grand Budapest Hotel,
Oh.
which I think
Sure.
it's hard to say. I mean, I think I love the Grand Budapest Hotel score a lot.
Mhm.
But I probably would give this to Zimmer too, but that's how we end the category.
See, I I'm sure I've seen Grand Budapest, but to me, I don't remember the music.
True.
I couldn't.
Not as
I
memorable.
could sing you some of the hum you some of the melodies from Imitation Game. Imitation Game had beautiful music. Like I would have probably chosen that over Grand Budapest, but to me, none of them are even close to Interstellar. I have a hard time figuring out what movie is close in general, soundtrack wise, to Interstellar. I can't think of any that would outweigh the beauty of this score.
Up.
No. I mean, Up has great music, but I wouldn't say it's better than Interstellar.
It's the only one I could think of where it's like, maybe as like in
Ratatouille?
terms of
Again,
Pixar.
great music. We love the Newmans.
We love Giacchino.
But we love the Newmans. We love Giacchino. We love, but I'm no. It's not even close.
Howard Shore.
Howard
Lord of the
Shore's
Rings?
obviously Howard
that's a
Shore
good one,
has
too.
made some
Damn.
iconic music. But to me, iconic doesn't necessarily say it's the best score for these movies. To me, obviously Lord of the Rings has amazing music.
Yeah, we'll come to that. With
Iconic
our Peter
music.
Jackson series.
But to me, it's music and it's important. But they're like more songs in the movie to me, like bum 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 isn't a character. Where the music in Interstellar is so specifically used and it's a character, and I just there's
it's
no
better written
match
than
for
some
it.
of the characters in the movie.
It's better than some of the characters in the movie for sure. And
I
it's
meant
not-
better written.
And to me, a score isn't just what you hear. A good score utilizes silence. And when he goes into that black hole, there is no music. It is silent. All you hear is him narrating what he's seeing. And that is so powerful. And that's a decision, I'm sure it was a collaboration between Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer, but
And also sound mixer.
and the sound mixer. But there's genius in that, and I just don't understand how it didn't win that year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the only other one that I can imagine to give another win to this movie. I would say really the only other, unless Sam, you have a different one. I really think the only other one would be score.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I love the cinematography in this movie, but that year Birdman won. Manuel
sure,
Lubezki.
sure. That was the whole point of that movie, was
Yeah,
the cinematography.
You can't really beat that. Even got Deakins in there that year as well.
No.
But is this also like anything they didn't get nominated for too, or it has to be what they got?
It could be any.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he could have got a Best Director nod. I don't know if he should have won though for it, but
But who else is in that?
Inarritu for Birdman.
Oh, sure.
Linklater for Boyhood. Wes Anderson. Morton Tilden for Imitation Game, and then Bennett Miller for Foxcatcher. I would take that. I would take him.
You could take Foxcatcher or Imitation Game out, I feel like.
Yeah, you could take
And
either
it probably
of
For
those
was out.
director, yeah.
Yeah.
And you could put Nolan in there. I don't know if Nolan should have won that year though, just because I
No.
think Birdman was
Birdman was the shoe
crowning
in.
achievement.
Birdman was the shoe in for basically every
Everything that
category
year.
that was nominated for. And I really like that movie. For some reason, and there's been a weird thing about that movie. Maybe we'll get to it one day, but
But what about best performance? So are we not considering Matthew McConaughey
I don't know what was best actor that
for
year.
best actor?
Best actor was an interesting.
Is there any that we could like pluck
Is
out for
interesting.
McConaughey?
Well, this year was
I'm sure
there was a
Keaton,
big
right?
snub, I think, in the best actor category. And I'm trying to remember who the specific.
Oh, so was it packed?
It was pretty packed. I'm just trying to remember like the specific actor that I feel like should have been in there instead. But Eddie Redmayne won for Stephen Hawking.
Oh, Theory of Everything. That's
I
right.
remember that.
Oh, that was it.
I forgot about that.
That was the thing about this year was the 2015 Oscars Nightcrawler.
Oh, Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal was
Yeah.
not nominated,
Wow.
and I felt like
Forgot about that.
you had Michael Keaton in there. You had Benedict Cumberbatch for Imitation Game, Bradley Cooper for American Sniper, Steve Carell in Foxcatcher, and then Eddie Redmayne in Theory of Everything. I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal could supplant one of those people and be nominated instead, just because I think Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in Nightcrawler
That's the movie.
is such a memorable.
That's the movie there.
I haven't seen that movie I think since 2015 or 2016.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's really
he's
good.
unbelievable in that movie. Yeah.
But
I forgot about that.
But yeah, so best actor. So I don't even know if McConaughey. It was kind of a stacked
That's
category.
tough. That's
so I
tough.
don't know if McConaughey. I would even put him in there.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the theory
tough.
of everything is such an Oscar movie, so it's hard to say
yeah.
McConaughey should just replace Redmayne there. But I don't think it'd be the worst thing.
I mean, and we're also saying, like, this is the best, we believe it could possibly be the best performance of Matthew McConaughey's career.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, some of these movies are amazing performances, but I wouldn't say they're the best of these guys' careers.
I mean, I could take Bradley out. I think Bradley Cooper.
American
He
Sniper's
was
a weird
fine.
movie.
American Sniper is
That's
kind
a
of like
weird
a
movie.
forgotten one too, compared to Star is Born, which I
Yeah.
think really
Yeah.
broke
Yeah.
through more.
You know what the problem is too?
I-
This is only a year removed from Dallas Buyers Club, where they did give McConaughey the win
Yeah.
for Best Actor.
So
He
they
did win
can't do it
that.
twice in a row.
Yeah, so they wouldn't have. Yeah, they wouldn't have gone for it twice.
Okay. That's fair.
They've nominated people 2 years in a row, so I think that would have been possible. But he won the prior year,
Yeah, he did
win.
which does make it tough.
Yeah.
So it's all right. So I think we're in a pretty good consensus there. There's one last stop on the train here.
Casey Affleck?
No. We're not talking in that case.
I would like to stop on that train.
There's a reason why.
High five.
There's a reason why we
Alright.
did not mention his name in this podcast. It's because his role is nothing.
Yeah.
Chalamet gets more than
Yeah.
I like the
Casey
part where
Affleck does.
Topher Grace is trying to save his children.
Oh yeah, what
and
a
then-
weird moment that was.
And then
too.
Casey Affleck just like punches Topher Grace. I was like, really, man?
That was like a lighter version of when Damon shows up in the movie.
Yeah.
where I was
Yeah,
like,
that was a
whoa!
weird cameo.
Topher.
For sure.
That was like, I was like, oh, this is some family drama.
Wow.
And then literally then Jessica Chastain like burns his farm, and then he's got ash all over his face, and then she's like, I fixed it. Dad was trying to help us, and his face is just like,
He doesn't change his facial
Yeah,
expression
yeah.
at all.
Affleck does not get much for this movie.
No.
But
so funny.
The last stop on our train.
the last stop on the train. It's a new segment I like to call Hot Take Central.
Oh,
Choo choo.
cool.
Where we go around doing any final hot takes that we have about this movie or the movie that we're talking about before we cap things off. My hot take, and it's one that I came up with as we were talking, was that I really don't see how Cooper doesn't just take Murph.
Oh,
To outer space?
So here's my rationale. He's leaving her on a dead planet, dying planet, where he knows that this mission will take many, many years. He doesn't know how many years, but many, many years. And he accepts that, but at the same time, you have this very willing girl who is super smart for her age and is, just like plunging into this stuff and has a real knack for it. He doesn't know what the heck's going to happen. He's going to be leaving her on the dead planet anyway. The son's the one that cares about the farm. What's the, I get it.
Missy's face right now.
I get it. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of like potential harm that could come from going into space. But at the same time, you get the same issue on dystopian Earth that's died like near death. I don't really see what the big difference is.
Gabe, we have children together.
Yeah.
And now
so,
I'm concerned.
Exactly. So if you died and I was stuck with our two children,
I
and
would
one
hope
of
you
them-
wouldn't take our daughter to outer space.
if the potential of never seeing her again was there and this person was so excited, like ready to do this thing with me, I'd be like, you know what? This could be a death mission. Might never see this person again. I might be successful, but still never see this person again. This person wants to do this thing with me. Why not just do it?
Gabe, you're depriving your daughter of Topher Grace.
And also,
That's the thing. It's like you're taking her away from like what the
there's-
shitty school that they're in. Like what?
but there's an important line in the film that I think you're forgetting, which is when Matthew McConaughey tells Anne Hathaway that when you become a parent, there's like this dire need to have your children feel safe.
Feel safe. So
But-
he's left her on the dead
With
dying
John
planet
Lithgow.
Yeah,
with
but
Michael Caine and
I
underground.
think she probably feels safer in what's familiar to her than going to a literal other galaxy through a wormhole and we know nothing about it or how to do it, and it's completely unfamiliar, and we literally only discovered that we are connected to space 2 days ago. I'm gonna just say that that's probably not gonna allow her to feel safe, but that is a hot take.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what he tells Anne Hathaway, but like, I don't know. I think
We'd
Murph
have to
is-
ask young Murph what she thinks.
I think young Murph is pretty clearly wanted to go.
Yeah, as any other 10-year-old would want to go to space.
Yeah, and she's freaking smart, and like, you know, who knows? Maybe having a little bit of perspective like that could be useful. You know, like give her a little bit of training, just do it. I don't know. It's rare. I think an interesting version of this movie that Spielberg makes is like the kids on the journey too,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
it's like a bonding experience where they're like tested, their bond is tested, and you know other members of the crew still die, but like they keep having to like save each other and like get through their problems, all this stuff.
Sounds like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, right there.
Yeah, the same movies,
I don't wanna
really.
watch that
Just
What did you
truly
just say about
comparable.
me, you little bitch? I had to know that I graduated top of my class in
Oh
Navy
my
SEALs.
Well, Gabe, my hot take is kind of similar to yours, but opposite.
So he should have stayed.
If I was Coop, I would stay.
Yeah, that's fair.
And even if that meant that there was no chance that our civilization or humanity would survive, I would stay.
Our cat's back.
And my hope would be that my daughter Murph would still be smart enough to solve the gravity equation or whatever. But
That's a good point. Or they could have stayed on Earth to figure it out together.
yeah,
Work with Michael Caine, you know, figured out like, bring some other schmuck out to space.
yeah, I guess. But like they never would have. Bradley Cooper. I keep saying Bradley
Bradley
Cooper.
Cooper.
Cooper McConaughey.
Bradley Cooper McConaughey would never have like even ended up at NASA if he hadn't gone to space. So, because he sends himself the coordinates for
Right,
NASA.
that's like the weird, trippy
yeah.
time travel thing about
So,
this movie.
but that would be my hot take. That as a parent, if I was given the decision to leave my children for many years, possibly come back when I'm literally like 30 years, when my children are 30 years older, possibly my age or more,
Or dead.
or dead,
Of old age.
even if it meant the end of the human race, I would not leave my children.
It's tough. I mean, that's the whole movie's like weighing those moral decisions. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
For sure.
Anne Hathaway says to him is like, well, like if we decide to go to this other planet, like now you're going to have to decide between seeing your children again or saving the Earth, like that type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of always what the decision
that's
was.
such the heaviness of the movie is in that,
Yeah.
The
that
weight
choice.
of a decision.
Yeah, and they do a good job relaying that. Do you have a hot take, Sam?
I find I'll say an opinion hot take in terms of I think like the humor in this movie is like the best Nolan humor in any of his movies. I don't know. I find the Case and Tars and McConaughey.
That banter.
I like it a lot. I like the way the banter is with Anne Hathaway as well. It's like, oh, like so the honesty setting is at 90%. It's like, oh, let's bring that down. At the end, where he's like, let's bring that down to 65%. When he's like, self-destruct in 10, 9. I don't know. I find it like it was like nice. I don't know. Like sometimes I don't really care for the robots in these movies. Like sometimes they do it well, sometimes they don't do it well. And I feel like Nolan did a really good spin on like the android robot character.
Yeah,
He
modeled it a little bit around Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, with
That's
the
so-
Marvin, the depressed android.
Which makes
I
a lot
was
of sense,
thinking,
yeah.
it's like it reminds me of something.
Yeah.
But honestly, one of the moments that I go, oh, in Interstellar too, is when Tars jumps back into the ship after Romilly was blown up in Matt Damon's place. when he comes in and he says Romilly did not survive, I could not save him.
Yeah.
The way he says that line, it just melts my entire being. We watched it yesterday night, and I looked up at Gabe, and I was like, oh no. Like, it's just so, like, not only is the humor utilized well, those little emotional moments in a robotic character are really just so good.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was, I don't know, I really love, like, the companion of, like, and, like, the end too, like, Hoop's just hanging out with Tarbs, like, he reboots him
in the black hole.
Oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
This is not really, like, a crazy hot take, but Nolan's not really known. I mean,
but it's
not
a
really,
good take.
Yeah, like, he's not really known for his humor, but I think, like, in terms of the Nolan humor, which is never like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's more like, that's funny. You know,
Good
like
one.
it's a highbrow type thing. You know,
I mean, yes, because you can imagine Nolan with his very posh accent looking at his script or watching a take and being like,
yeah,
like little giggle
with like pursed
proceed.
lips, just like,
yeah.
let's go again. Just like giggling to himself. I like to imagine Christopher Nolan having fun on his sets.
Drinking coffee.
It's a weird thing to imagine because he's so he feels so like distinguished. You know,
I don't even know what he looks like. So
Really?
he's a pretty average looking blonde white boy.
British man.
From British. He does have nice eyes though.
Oh, he's very handsome.
He's a good looking dude.
Yeah.
But he's got very like beady, intense eyes,
Yeah.
which I think is a good directorial trait.
He's very serious, but he's also like, just like listening to him talk. He's not like pretentious. He's kind of like, I don't know, not as much as other directors can be.
No,
like a James Cameron, like
yeah, definitely does not have a pretension to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a
sure,
stick
for
up his
sure,
ass,
for sure.
which is nice.
So that just about caps off our conversation about Interstellar from 2014. In our next episode, we're going to be going 6 years ahead, past Dunkirk, which is a movie I forgot about earlier, which could also be in our second round
Dunkirk.
of Nolan. That movie's awesome. Also, we're going to be going to 2020 with Sam's pick.
Tenet.
Well, what made you pick Tenet, Sam?
It's right smack dab in the middle of a pandemic when it was released. I also have vivid memories of seeing it, and it's a movie that I would like to revisit and discuss with you all because it's more divisive and also a lot more inaccessible than even movies that you may think are confusing, like Interstellar or Inception. This is even on another level. So
I think it's a great choice for that very reason.
yeah,
That there are so many weird things going on within the text of the movie, but also surrounding it. Also, you know, it coming out in 2020 and it being so absurd.
yeah.
I'm excited to rewatch it because I think the first time we watched it, I fell asleep.
Oh, great!
I don't think because I was. Oh, thank you, Riku.
Riku's also excited.
I don't think
to watch.
I fell asleep because I was bored. I think I fell asleep because I was overwhelmed and I needed to shut off.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
We watched it one night, and I remember like having a hard time hearing it. So I'm curious to know
That
if we
too.
watch it here in the living room. I'm curious to see if I can understand more of the words.
Yeah.
so
Definitely.
a lot of anticipation for our next episode.
I'm excited.
Yes, very exciting here at LilliHouse. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week when you stop back at the house for another family movie night.
Bye.
Bye. Love you.